Man, seems like independent women do the most complaining.
When men do what they're supposed to do.
Why every man gotta be a yes dear ass?
Hey, come on, you guys.
You are ignorant. I'm protesting.
Are your dreams, son?
Same dream.
You deserve what you get.
What?
Peace and blessings to everyone. I'm your brother, old God of hip hop news, Uncensored. And we got an exclusive today. There's a video out there, a nurse that was actually at the scene when Takeoff was shot, did an interview with KHOU 11. I want to play that interview, and then I want to give a little bit of commentary on the back end of it. And let me tell you, if you're sensitive to stuff like this, don't listen, because this is emotional and this is pretty sad. But she explains everything in graphic detail. So let's roll the tape.
Pow, 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 pow. And it stopped, and I went, that's so weird. So I got up in my pajamas, I go over to the balcony. My neighbors were underneath me. I said, did y'all hear that? And they said, yeah. I said, I don't think that was a car or firecrackers. That sounded like gunshots. So then we saw people running. I was like, oh my God, that's an active shooter. So I wasn't in my head at that moment. I'm thinking, I'm not going anywhere. Okay. But then I saw people settle down and go back, and I heard the uncle go, ah! He was screaming, ah! So I'm thinking that's the victim. That's the person who shot. It sounded like a cry of agony. It was a cry of agony, but emotional, not physical. And they were crying out so then they're coming out looking for the ambulance. Where's the ambulance? Somebody help! So then they're looking for help, and they're going towards where the shooting was. So I'm thinking, okay, scene is safe. Somebody's hurt. Man down. I got things that could help. I'm an infusion nurse. I have a whole trunk full of stuff, right? But threw on some clothes, got my stuff out of my trunk, and ran over there. And you can hear my voice in the video. I'm a nurse. No, I'm a nurse. Because I wanted to let them know. So I started saying that from the bottom floor. And they said, take the elevator. So I came up the elevator. And they started pulling on me, like, to come quickly. And that's when I was like, no. Like, leave me alone. Because I was like this, too. I was scared. But I had to go. Because if somebody was shot in the leg, in the arm, somewheres where maybe they don't have the tourniquet on right. Maybe he finally does collapse and they don't know how to do CPR the correct way. I mean, for minutes, I could at least do that. And not only am I risking that, but legally I am not protected in the state of Texas.
And
for a Good Samaritan Act. So, because I am a nurse. So when I got there, I looked at him. His head was this way and up, and his eyes were rolled back and fixed. And I saw a pile of blood behind his head. I didn't see where the gun was shot. I've stopped for car accidents before. I never move the patient. Rule number 1, don't touch him. Because if it was something in his neck that could have been taken care of, I don't want to move his neck. And then he's paralyzed, then I'm in trouble, right? No, don't move it.
People on social media are saying, why didn't you do CPR and this kind of thing? That would not be appropriate?
That would not be appropriate, especially with a gunshot wound. You would never do CPR because you would be circulating the blood and the blood would go right out of the hole. So the first thing to do is to put pressure on the wound. That was too late. I checked his pulse. Plus, it was probably, I heard it 2:30ish or so. I was back calling my daughter. The phone call was at 3:16 in the morning. It's on my phone. 3:16 is when I called her. So I was already back, shook up. And when I called her, it was more like, ah! And she's like, Mom, so are you okay? Slow down. Because she's a nurse too. And so I'm calling her like, oh my God.
Did you know who he was?
No clue. It was my 28-year-old girlfriend that's a nurse that said, do you know who that is? And I'm like, who? No clue. He was a human being. That's it.
Talk a little bit more about what you just said. You said you were scared, but you had to go.
Because I heard somebody crying out for help. And I thought at least I could get them stabilized or just sit there with them until the EMS got there. I've stopped for like car accidents and stuff before. I don't move them out of the vehicle. but I'll hold their hand. One of the ladies, I went and got her child out of school. I took the child to the hospital. I could be helpful in other ways. I don't have to, and make sure EMS is getting there. So if CPR did need to be started, absolutely I'd start it. I get in trouble, but
When you realized it was too late, you saw what you saw, and then the ambulance came. Did you stay for that? And then what happened after that? Because I know once,
I didn't stay for the ambulance, but they were there. I heard they were there, so I left the scene. I was pretty shaken up. I checked his pulse. I checked the carotid pulse. I checked it on here. I checked again.
you knew he was coming.
I can't pronounce someone dead, but I think he was deceased, probably. Assumptions are made. This is an assumption on impact, probably. Didn't take long.
And you mentioned you've been doing this for almost 30 years. You've never seen this type of trauma in person?
No. I mean, I've handled emergent situations, but I've never I'm not an ER nurse, so no gunshot wound kind of thing. Patients bleeding out, yeah, I've for different reasons, post-surgery, that kind of thing, yeah, I've handled those situations.
Can you recall what it was like around you while you were trying to assist him with other
The uncle
people?
was very distraught. I mean, after I told him, I said, no. And I started crying, and he grabbed me, and he's like, please. And I started bawling, and I was like, then I came back across the street, my neighbors were out, and I was crying, and I'm like, typical nurse, I was beating myself up. I should have gone sooner. What if I would have been 5 minutes sooner? Sorry.
What would you say to people questioning your actions or anything?
I don't really care.
All right, so that is by way of K. Houston. Let me get this right first real quick. I want to make sure that we're correct with that before. K. Houston 11, man. That is heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking to actually get to hear, to hear the account of somebody who tried to save his life. Now you're gonna have people that are gonna say, "Oh, CPR, you could have did this, you could have did this to save him." But at the end of the day, this nurse, she's been a nurse for 30 years. She understands, what she has to do. In a situation like that. Obviously, she said if she would have completed CPR, that the blood would have probably came out of the wound. So I'm no expert. I can't confirm nor deny that. But we need more people. We need more people in the medical field like that lady. And then how she talks about how, when she's referring to Quavo, how he, pretty much, was, saying no, like he was trying to save his. Man, this is sad, man. This is you never like to talk about this. This the business that we're in. It's one thing to hear about it, but to hear the person that was actually there trying to save his life, you don't usually hear that perspective. So I wanted to bring that perspective to everyone today. Like I said, the full video is on K Houston 11. All rights due to them. I'll link the video in the description box. But that's a sad situation, man. I just hope that if you are the family and friends, if you are listening, from the bottom of my heart, condolences go out. From the bottom of my heart, condolences go out. Whatever that means. I know it probably don't mean much, at this point, because people are dealing with a lot of pain at this point. But all you can hope is that, and again, hope that people just make better decisions, because now you're looking, TMZ's coming out and saying, which we can all take this for granted. Actually, the police are coming out and saying that this whole incident, pretty much, was over a dice game and arguing over basketball. This is what they're saying. This is the speculation now that's coming out, from the police and from the information that they're gathering. I'm sure they're probably talking to different witnesses at the scene. So, man, like, people so quick to pull that trigger, man. Like, I just hope that, I think it'd be different if people were able to experience. I just wish that you were able to experience that pain of a lost loved one before you thought about taking someone else's life. I get it. A lot of people out here are cold, they're callous, they don't care. But the person that you love the most, whether it be your daughter, your son, I wish you could just feel your parent, your mom, your grandfather, whoever you're close to. If you could just feel the pain before you thought about taking someone else's life or shooting a gun in an irresponsible manner. I'm going to digress. This is tough, guys. This is a tough one. But I want to move on